Howdy, y'all. Welcome and thank you for viewing our second installment of TAASA Talks, the 87th. My name is Rose Luna, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. And I am honored to be joined by these two brilliant women from the policy team who are leading this year's legislative effort for TAASA. Kristen and Catherine, so excited to have y'all here. So before I hand it over to them and let them kind of give us an update on everything that's happening, all things Capitol, all things Texas Ledge, I just wanted to do a quick reminder of why we're doing this in case some of you missed the first installment. So basically, TAASA Talks, the 87th, is a platform we created as a response to the demand from membership, from survivors, and from allied professionals. And they wanted to learn more about this legislative process and how it affects our work. So instead of flooding your inboxes with updates, we'll still do some in emails, but instead of flooding your inboxes with all these updates, we wanted to kind of put it all together in a video that you can watch at your convenience. So that's why we're doing this platform. A quick reminder, Capitol Week is February the 15th through the 18th. So on the opening day, we're going to have a virtual press conference with special guests and speakers. It's going to be really exciting. We're also going to have some speakers in the afternoon on the 15th, the 16th and 17th and 18th, and even on the 15th, you all will be scheduling virtual Capitol Day visits with your elected officials, and TAASA and TCFE policy teams will host office hours to assist and answer questions and guide you through that process. And on the 18th, we will have a happy hour to celebrate all the great conversations that we all have had and that you all have had with the elected officials. So very excited about that. So now, before we get started, I just wanted to say that last week was monumental as the base budget was released by both the Senate and the House. And just in a quick nutshell, Rape Crisis Center funding in regards to OAG, SAPCS, OVAG, is in a positive position. We have a guest speaker today that's going to talk a little bit about the logistics and what to expect, because we still have a long session and there's a budget process that still has to ensue. So we're excited to have Shannon Ghangurde here to talk about what that means. And of course, we'll keep you updated with some emails and with this platform as well. But I just thought it was important for us just to say it, that we are positioned nicely. It's still a long process, but we're very excited about that. So with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to our fierce capital Ks, as we've been referring to them, Catherine and Kristen.
Thank you, Rose. So Catherine and I wanted to cover a couple of TAASA's priorities for this session today and give you a status update on where those are. So the one I'm going to be talking about today is full confidentiality protections for rape victims. This priority has been filed by Senator Perry from the Lubbock area. It is bill number SB 295, and we are really excited about it. So keep your eyes on that bill. Hopefully it works its way through this session. And what essentially this priority does is it brings confidentiality protections for rape victims into line with those that exist right now for domestic violence victims. So we know that after a sexual assault, that most survivors are not ready to disclose this assault to law enforcement, and they may not be ready to tell family and friends about it either. But we want to ensure that when they choose to turn to a rape crisis center and speak to an advocate, that they can do so with complete privacy and know that that information is safe unless they choose to disclose it. We think this is especially true for special populations like military survivors, college students, and folks from small communities where everyone is really going to know each other. And so we want to ensure that these protections are strengthened and they are equal for both domestic violence and sexual assault victims. And so Catherine is going to talk about one of the other priorities that we're really excited about right now.
Thanks, Kristen. So the other priority that we want to highlight today is House Bill 1127 through Donna Howard of the Austin area's office. This priority came out of stakeholder conversations in the spring and summer about how to make the reporting process to the criminal justice system more trauma-informed, more survivor-centered. We were also lucky to see parts of this bill come out as state task force recommendations. So we know that a lot of stakeholders from across the state really support this idea. And this bill is 3 parts. It's 3 bills in one. The first is to remove a loophole in the law that allows law enforcement to polygraph survivors. We don't believe that it's happening terribly often, but it is happening. And we want to remove law enforcement's ability to do that. We are also ensuring that survivors have access to sexual assault exams within that 120 hours after a sexual assault occurs, regardless of law enforcement's role in saying yes or no to that exam. And the final piece is to ensure that advocates are able to be in the room during a law enforcement interview, much in the same way that advocates are allowed to be present during a forensic examination if that's something that a survivor wants. We think that these 3 pieces together really create a better environment for trust and survivor-centeredness within the criminal justice process, and we hope that it makes that interviewing process a kinder, more gentle process for survivors. And now I'd like to introduce our amazing budget wonk, Shannon. Hi, Shannon. To go over the larger Texas budget for us.
Well, thank you. I hadn't heard the capital K's. My name didn't start with an S, so I could be part of that group. But thank you so much. And I, as y'all mentioned, we're right in the middle or started the 87th legislative session, and I have been in and around the Capitol since the late 90s and know what to expect every session. We're ready to go. And I can tell you that this is not that session. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. It's really, nobody really knows how we're going to be able to enter into the building. Are there going to be a lot of bills passed? There's just so many unknowns around this session. But the one thing that we know is that the legislature is constitutionally required to pass a budget. So the budget is the one constant this session that we know has to be passed. The budget is written for 2 years. And so the budget that's being written during this legislative session is for the fiscal year that will start in September of this year. September 1 of 2020 is actually fiscal year 22. So we're writing the fiscal year 22-23 budget right now. And the process actually started last summer. Agencies are required to submit a legislative appropriation request to the legislature asking for resources for all the services that they provide. And in the LAR for the Office of the Attorney General, which is where our budget sits, the LAR actually had a reduction for TAASA as an organization and for certain grant programs for crime victims, largely due to some issues with some funding streams. It wasn't just the Attorney General Office didn't want us to have our funding, but there were some issues with some funding streams. And so we were concerned about that and have been working, capital K's and Rose and Liz, we've been working with the legislature on, please restore those reductions that were in the request. And so as Rose alluded to last week, the Senate and the House filed what's called the base budget. It's the starting point. It's the budget that's what is worked off of the entire session. And both the House and the Senate resolved that issue and kept the rape crisis centers at level funding. And so right now in both budgets, we are at the same levels that we were at for 2021 budget cycle. So that's great. The next step is that both the Senate and the House will hold hearings. Their budget committees will hold hearings, and they will hear from every agency, including the Office of the Attorney General. They will discuss our budget request. We will have an opportunity to provide testimony, which we will do on the rape crisis center's behalf, and explain that we are very thankful for the money that's been included. And then we'll also make our push for additional resources. But we know this is a tight budget cycle, so we will make that ask and we will push it as hard as we can. Once each committee finalizes their versions, they will pass their respective chambers, and then we'll go into what's called conference committee. And that's when the Senate and the House will work together to try to resolve any differences. Ideally, you look the same in both budgets and where you want to be, so that in conference, there's no conference decision. But if we like one version more than the other, then we'll work to try to get the best possible outcome. They will pass the final version at the end of May, hopefully. Hopefully we'll pass the budget within the regular session. And then the governor will have 20 days to veto, line item veto any item he wants. And once that is signed and the budget is signed, the new budget will start in September, like I said, in 2021. So we will be involved in the process from beginning to end, and keep you all posted. But for right now, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that the first step, which was our base budget, ended up in a good spot. So I think I'll end on that positive note, and unless y'all want me to talk about anything else.
No,
Thank you so much, Shannon. A very cute cat, Rose.
I know.
Perfect timing.
I did want to say, I'm so sorry, but I listed our trauma-informed investigations bill number as 1127 when it's actually 1172. I'm so sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear.
Thank you, Catherine, for the clarification there. And thank you, Shannon, for all of your work. We've learned so much working with you. And I just wanted to say that when I first became CEO at TAASA, one of my very first big decisions was hiring Shannon. So that was a really good decision, I think. Hiring Shannon, or contracting with Shannon, I should say, not hiring. So Shannon, thank you so much. And again, as you mentioned, it's work. We've been working on this for a long time. All of us together collectively as a team have been working on this. So we still have a long way to go. Thank you for talking about the process and what may happen next. And again, we'll keep everybody updated on what that looks like. But the key takeaway today is that it's positive. We are positioned very well, and we will continue to make sure that if we can't get more, that we at least stay where we are. That's great news in this really tight budget session. So thank you so much. Again, Shannon, from the bottom of my heart and everyone's hearts, thank you so much. It's been great. And so well, we're going to conclude. And before we do, I just wanted to say that if you're an executive director and you're listening, that's one, thank you so much. But two, I will be sending you an email to talk about a rapid response on some of these things. As we mentioned, things go pretty fast. We're still trying to get a hold of, or trying to get a handle on how, communication is going to be. So we may need you to, make a quick call or a quick video to kind of help us with the messaging. So I will get with you on that. And any questions, comments, or anything related to TAASA legislative policy, please email policy@taasa.org. That is managed by both Kristen and Catherine, and they are very great at responding, but also please give them some great grace because they are super busy trying to pass all these really amazing bills that our membership has tasked us with doing, as well as the budget. So that's it. So thank y'all so much. And thank you, Shannon, for joining us today. We look forward to having you back.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.